Present. Larisha, Trustee Thornton, and Clerk Swanson is not going to be here this evening. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. If those who are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remain standing for a moment of silence. All right. Before we vote to approve the agenda, it's been requested that we remove authorization and bids. So item number 1, just remove that from the agenda. A motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Peterson.
Motion Peterson. Support Newman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is approved. Item number 4 is a consent agenda. It's a minutes of April 21st, 2026 regular meeting and statements and checks for May 5th, 2026 in the amount of $643,469.36.
So moved.
Motion Eldridge.
Support. Go ahead, Karen.
Support Rowe. Questions or comments regarding the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5 is the attorney's report. Mr. Winters?
Madam Chair, just a few updates in regards since our last meeting. As the board is well aware, back on April 15th, the Township Board requested that YCUA impose a moratorium for 12 months on approving water and sewer service to hyperscale data centers, mid-sized data centers, artificial intelligence computing facilities, and high-performance computational centers pending completion of a number of due diligence reviews. In spite of the fact that at the conclusion of our meeting on April 21st, in spite of the Yucca commissioners and some board members and as well as City Council received a letter at 8:42 from one of the attorneys representing U of M telling Yucca that what they were going to consider would not be legal or appropriate. To the credit of YCUA, they pursued and approved the resolution imposing the 12-month moratorium. And obviously that is designed for Yucca to hit the pause button and actually understand what demands are being made upon YCUA's infrastructure, especially as it pertains to the availability of the sewer capacity that remains in the Yucca wastewater treatment plant. There's been a lot of conversations about the availability of water coming from the Great Lakes Water Authority, but not nearly enough attention has been paid to the sewer capacity. There are limitations on sewer capacity in the wastewater treatment plant maintained and owned by YCUA. The remaining capacity is for the build-out of Ypsilanti Township, especially in regards to residential, new businesses, light industrial, and right now, given the demands that are being placed upon a number of communities by these hyperscale data centers, it's not so far-fetched that 1 and possibly 2 hyperscale data centers, when I say that, I'm talking about data centers that can consume 5 million gallons of water per day. So if you have 5 million gallons of water per day being purchased and used by one hyperscale data center, then of course there has to be a return flow back to YCUA for the wastewater treatment. Now, all of us recognize that there is a certain amount that's going to be what they call evaporation. But right now, none of us really know what that is going to look like. And so you could have 2 hyperscale data centers using 10 million gallons of water per day. And even at a 50% evaporation rate, you could have 2 hyperscale data centers that could almost consume the 5 million gallons per day of sewer capacity that remains with the YCUA plant. So I commend YCUA for being responsible, being due diligent, listening to the science that is coming from a number of leading organizations, and American Water Works Association is the gold standard in that industry, requiring or recommending that YCUA and other utilities do their due diligence before they enter into long-term service contracts. And so again, in spite of the kind of the threatening letter, YCUA stood tall and did the right thing, in my opinion, in imposing a moratorium. And again, the courts have always looked at the duration, the scope, and the purpose of moratoriums. They're not obviously designed to last forever, but they are designed to hit the pause button so you learn ahead of time as to what actually is going to, the impact is going to be. This is especially important given what continues to be, in my opinion, one of the most disturbing events that I've seen in my lifetime, and that is, I'm referring to what the state of Michigan, the Michigan legislature, DTE, many other financial institutions, what they have foisted upon 2,500 people who live in Saline Township. I have never in my life seen a number of forces come together and run roughshod over a community and impose their will upon a township, and right now constructing a 2 million square foot data center that has the capacity of 1.4 gigawatts. What that means in simple terms is this. The data center is being proposed by U of M is 115 megawatts. A 1.4 gigawatt in Saline is like 10 times the amount of electricity that is being proposed for Saline Township. That, in simple terms, is enough electricity to power anywhere between 750,000 to 1 million homes. 3 to 4 times the amount of households that currently exist throughout Washtenaw County. And so that is what is being forced upon Saline Township. And make no mistake, they may be our neighbors to the west, and we're obviously their neighbors to the east. This is Washtenaw County. This is still one county. And we should stand united with all of our communities throughout the county when they are being just picked apart the way that they have been treated by the governor's office, DTE, the Michigan legislature, and it goes on and on and on. Right now, I've never seen this before. I've never seen such a brazen effort by a public utility such as DTE to basically, I know the Attorney General in Nassau referred to it as being a ransom note. I kind of believe it's more along the lines of a bribery, where DTE is saying this: if you approve, Michigan Public Service Commission, if you approve our request for $474 million in planned rates, which is twice the amount of what you just approved a year ago, if you do that, we won't seek another rate increase until 2028, so long as the planned data center in Saline Township comes online. In other words, if we get all the approvals from the regulators, if we get everything in place by the end of 2027 and that data center that consists of 2.2 million square feet is online, we'll simply pause for 9 months and not seek another rate increase. This is absolutely, I've just never thought we would see here in Michigan this type of brazen calculated efforts to try and persuade what is supposed to be a commission that is to be looking out for the public's best interest. Now, in the same Detroit News article, even more astonishing to me, that they are actually seeking this $474 million rate increase so long as they have their Stargate data center operating by the end of 2027, which we probably know is not going to happen. None of these projects ever come in on time. There's always delays, whether it's construction, whether it's weather, et cetera, et cetera. But putting that aside for the moment, just where in the world, what world are we living in when it says in Detroit News article again that 39 staff members of the Michigan Public Service Commission, these are people who are assigned to oversee and help assist the commissioners in doing their due diligence, that 39 Michigan Public Service Commission staff members signed non-disclosure agreements with DTE. How is that even possible? How is it even legal? How can you possibly sign a non-disclosure agreement between a public utility and 39 staff members whose job it is to vet that application on behalf of the people in the state of Michigan? At this point in time, the Public Service Commission, in my opinion, should be elected by the people of this state, not appointed by the governor, because right now, obviously they're doing right now is ramrodding through every approval they possibly can before the end of this calendar year. Otherwise, how can you possibly explain what they refer to as the ex parte or one-sided approval of what occurred in Saline Township? They went through the regulation like a knife through hot butter. They gave no quarter or no interest in any comments that were being received by outside public interest groups. It was absolutely set up from the very beginning. And one other thing about Saline Township, there is no township in this state, be it Ypsilanti Township or any of the top 10 largest townships in this state. There's not one township that would have been prepared to deal with the AI construction of this data center on the scale of what is occurring in Saline Township. Nobody was prepared to deal with that type of a project. We could not have dealt with it. Nobody I know in this state could have dealt with it. It's something that this state has never seen before. And again, keep in mind, why are they all coming to Michigan? It goes back to the tax credits, to the tax incentives that were pushed through the Michigan legislature at the governor's request. There is a three-legged stool as to why they're coming to Michigan. It's the tax incentives, number one, DTE, number two, and the water in number three. Those are the three reasons why they have put a full court press on this state, which, by the way, has also resulted in over 50, maybe more than that, maybe 60 communities have issued moratoriums since this whole cycle began. There's more on the way. Even the Detroit City Council is requesting that the Detroit City Council and the mayor approve a 2-year moratorium down in Detroit because nobody is equipped to handle this type of massive draws on water and energy. At the same time, you may say, well, how did DTE become so powerful? How is it that they're able to have this amount of influence? Well, simply put, 93% of Michigan lawmakers receive DTE-linked contributions. They have had, they have had their hands in making energy policy and legislation in this state for decades. And what the residents receive in return is hundreds of thousands of residents lose power during repeated outages. Some last for days in extreme weather, be it heat or cold. At the same time, they promise that rates are going to go down. That's not going to happen. That's not how they calculate your residential rate if you are a consumer. Revenues don't determine that. It's the cost plus the profit that goes into setting the residential rate. There's probably, just from my research alone, there's about 20 different variables that go into the calculation of a residential rate. The rates are going up now, even without data centers being online. So does anybody really believe that your electric bill is going to go down because they're building these data centers? It's not going to happen. So on top of the fact right now that we have 39 staff members signing non-disclosure agreements, we have a 2.2 million square foot data center being built in a community of 2,500 with enough electricity to power 750,000 homes, four times the number of homes that currently exist right now. You also have U of M still harping on this issue that they really did want to build this data center in Ann Arbor. That was their first choice. They really wanted to do the data centers in Ann Arbor, but they chose Ypsilanti Township because Ypsilanti Township has power, water, as if they don't have those two mainstays in the city of Ann Arbor. We all know that's not the real reason why they want to come here. We know that. In fact, New Mexico officials out there that have been following Los Alamos for decades out there in New Mexico, one of their top nationally known activists in regards to overseeing Los Alamos said the following, that the construction of the data centers proposed in Ypsilanti Township follow a familiar pattern. Los Alamos has colonized brown people for 8 decades, just like it's now trying to do in Ypsilanti. New Mexico is 50% Hispanic and 12% Native American. But what the brown people and black people in Ypsilanti have that they don't have here is lots of water. Again, it goes back to, why did they come here? Why are they here now? Why are they planting their flags down here? Tax incentives, power, water. Now, in our resolution that we did on March 31st, that some of the people from Ann Arbor took exception to because we went on the record and said very clearly, we do not want either Los Alamos and U of M to come to Ypsilanti Township. Number one, they are a tier 1 high value risk target. And furthermore, we don't want them to come to the banks of the Huron River. But even as important as that is, we don't want them coming to the property over there by the former GM plant, which we also believe violates the environmental justice in regards to decision making. And we strongly oppose that location as well, because if they're a target on the banks of the Huron River on Bridge and Textile, they're the same target over there by the ACM property. At the same time, U of M seems to have also forgotten that people here in this township board can still read and go back and research what they published 5 years ago, which was their so-called U of M Poverty Solution Opportunity Index. And that study that was done back in 2015, and the findings they made then are still, they still resonate today in regards to the differences between eastern Washtenaw County and western Washtenaw County, primarily the city of Ann Arbor, U of M campus. That index showed the following, that US 23 is the unofficial boundary between the Ann Arbor area and Ypsilanti area, which divides Washtenaw's urban core from east to west. Privilege in Washtenaw County is divided by race as well as geography. And during their study, they showed that how racial inequity manifests itself, especially in Ypsilanti Township, wherein life expectancy is an 18-year difference. An 18-year difference in the average lifespan between residents in majority black parts of eastern Ypsilanti Township and other parts of western Washtenaw County. Health insurance is much lower. There is also an educational disparity. Children who live in and around Ypsilanti have lower access to education and training opportunities than kids from Ann Arbor, regardless of where they attend school. So when you have a professor at U of M saying, well, we really wanted to build Los Alamos in the city of Ann Arbor, but we were pretty much forced to come to Ypsi Township because of power and water. Not true. We all know why they're coming. They're coming here because they see the township as being a much more vulnerable community, one that's been historically marginalized, and one that's not going to fight the fight that they know they would have also encountered if they tried to put Los Alamos in the middle of Ann Arbor. And so when they tell you that they are going to really look out for your best interests, that's not going to happen. At this point in time, I do believe right now that the township continues to demand of the Michigan legislature, demand of the governor's office. It's not too late. It's not too late to reverse course here. People make mistakes. Maybe there were some people that were bamboozled by what they were told. Maybe they somehow did not really understand the impact that these data centers were going to have even in their own communities when they voted to approve these tax incentives. But I think if anything is true, is that you have seen, I've never seen such anger and exasperation by people from all sides of the political spectrum as you're seeing being expressed in their own communities against these data centers. And maybe the people in Lansing and Washington are simply tone deaf, or maybe that 93% contributions that DTE continues to fund is something they simply are not going to ignore. But I would point out what we've said all along, that there is a day of reckoning. I do believe it's going to happen here in Michigan. It may happen this very election cycle, because I think people that care about the environment, who care about the air, who care about the water, care about ensuring that we're going to have planning that's going to unfold in a methodical and due diligent manner, people that care about ensuring that we protect the farmland. Look at what they've done to Saline Township. Look at some of those photographs of how they're tearing up acres and acres of farmland for the benefit of the billionaires in this country to continue to make more billions. Enough is not enough. In fact, it's ironic that when it was announced that Oracle had secured their $16 billion financing. That's $16 billion in financing. One of the first persons that was thanked by the financial backers of Oracle was Governor Gretchen Whitmer, where the CEO said, we could not have done this. We could not have done this without the support of the governor. And they're right. They're absolutely right. They could not have done this. And so at the end of the day, I think we're still in a fight. We don't know what the next move is going to be by anybody involved in this process, but make it quite clear, that moratorium is not about U of M and Los Alamos. That moratorium goes about the future of this township and how these data centers are going to impact the water and sewer infrastructure of YCUA, how we're going to handle our future growth to ensure we have growth that's going to be responsible and not just be given to those data centers who come here, may not even be here in 10 years. The one that was proposed in Augusta Township, by way of comparison, they were going to use 3 million gallons of water per day. And they were also going to take a significant amount of the sewer capacity that's reserved for Ypsilanti Township. They were going to try and purchase that capacity to fund that data center, which again is located in some of the best farmland in eastern Washtenaw County. So right now, just make one final comment here. The township just reinforces that when it comes to the environmental racism, the location of Los Alamos is not one that we can ever support going to any place in Ypsilanti Township. That is absolutely clear. It should be clear to that we are not going to stand by and allow the people that live nearby who've had to put up with, at times, odors, and sometimes it's argued, is it coming from the toxic landfill? Is it coming from YCUA? Is it coming from wherever? The point is, it's coming to their neighborhoods, and they've had to deal with that for many, many years as well. And so, once again, just continue to keep your eye on what's happening in Saline Township, because that is probably going to be the blueprint that's going to be followed in other parts of this state. If they are allowed to do what they're doing in Saline Township with having just unchecked power through the Michigan Public Service Commission to get their way, and then make a promise, well, if we get that online by 2027, we won't ask for any more money in 2028, even though you're getting almost $750 million in increases in the last 2 years. There's something wrong with this whole picture. It reminds me, in closing, that back in 1990, when the Tigers, for whatever reason, fired the late, great Ernie Harwell, who had been the announcer for the Tigers for millions of us growing up and listening to Tiger baseball over the years. They took Bill Bonds, the legendary broadcaster from Channel 7, to go on TV and look squarely in the eyes of Detroit Tigers and the viewers and simply say, Detroit Tigers, you've got some explaining to do. And I think right now, we can do the same thing. Governor Whitmer, DTE, University of Michigan, Los Alamos, you've got some explaining to do. You've got some explaining to do as to how you've wrecked a community of 2,500 people. You got some explaining to do as to how you continue to try and plant as many data centers as you possibly can in southeastern Michigan, Washtenaw County in particular. You got some explaining to do as to how you have 39 staff members on the Public Service Commission who can sign a non-disclosure agreement with the very entity they are supposed to be regulating. Unheard of. In any event, that's what I have to say for tonight, and we'll keep on pressing forward and updating the board. We are looking into doing other noise impact studies and some of the other items we've talked about that we'll continue to strategize with the full-time officials and copy out the trustees. But again, that's another area right now that we're seeing impacts that no one has ever seen before, is the noise impacts that these data centers are having upon children, babies. They run 24/7. They hum constantly. The light issue is a major issue. There's been studies shown throughout the country right now as to the noise that's impact upon all types of different farm animals and the impact it's having upon them. It's just right now, again, you don't know what you don't know. And so right now, those impacts are not just imaginary. Every state that rushed in to approve data centers, be it Ohio, be it Virginia, even Wisconsin, all these states, many of them now are trying to pause at the state level a moratorium on data centers because I think they've realized they've gotten ahead of themselves to the point where they're now seeing the negative impacts take hold on their communities. And people, to their credit, are doing their research and they're challenging these decisions. And I think our residents and the ones in Washtenaw County are doing the same thing. And I believe we should still continue to fight hard to make sure that we leave no stone unturned when it comes to anyone trying to plant their flag of Los Alamos, a Tier 1 high-value target. You know, how can you not be a Tier 1 high-value target? You're doing all the computational research needed to activate nuclear weapons through your computational scenarios, which require billions and billions of computations done in a very, very lightning speed. That's why they're referred to as being the biggest, baddest, and fastest computers in the world. And make no mistake, if they are allowed to locate in this township, that's phase one of what will follow. And this township will become an extension of the Department of War, all brought to us by the University of Michigan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Winter. Any questions or comments regarding that? Let's remember, too, that they do not create jobs. You know, it's for economic development. And in the case of University of Michigan, it was 200 jobs on site, and it's 30 jobs now. And that's to maintain the coolers and mow the lawn and probably do the security, I'm not sure, but it's not an economic boom for the state. They pay, it's projected they'll pay a lot of taxes in Saline. And they paid a lot of money and gave donations for the fire department and different things. But they can change that tax law just like that. They've done it before for personal property when we had manufacturing, and we gave them a tax break in exchange for jobs. It was a state program. It created a lot of jobs, helped a lot of families, our Ford Motors and General Motors. But this creates almost zero jobs for people. And what it's doing to destroying communities, I don't understand it. You got some explaining to do, and that's true. Someone needs to tell us the truth about what's going on with the University of Michigan and Los Alamos. We haven't heard a word from them, not one word. So I'm sure that usually means there's a surprise coming. So I don't know what they plan on doing. The YCUA board, which Gloria and I sat on, it was a packed house there asking us to consider pausing so we can study the effects of these data centers on our water and our sewer, and our treatment plant, and our pipes, and the environment. And the last report, Mr. Winters, you gave, the earth can heat up, was it up to 16 degrees depending on the size?
Yeah, there's studies showing the land is actually heating up at least 15 degrees as far away as 4 or 5 miles from the data centers. And
I just can't imagine. And that's from probably the energy and the heat generated from the computation center. And that's what we're talking about, working all the time, 24 hours a day. It's got to affect everything and everyone with no studies or no information. There's examples from other states They are not good examples on the harm that they have done to the people and to the environment. This is shameful, and I'm so proud to stand with our board and at the Yucca level to fight this, because I think you're right, Mr. Winters. They thought they could pick on us because we were perhaps vulnerable, but they didn't do their homework, because we fight for our community and we fight for our residents, and we're going to continue fighting until someone understands how horrible this is for Ypsilanti Township, Saline Township, and any other community. So thank you for the update. DTE, I have asked for a meeting with them because I read an article that says they're using the gas for future uses for data centers. So you never know what's true or not. But then all of these pipes that are being put in, and they're putting them in Superior Township too, on Clark Road. There's something that I have a feeling has to do with data centers. And I don't know that, so I've asked for a meeting to understand exactly what DT is doing and why are they upsizing the gas line. They always say it's better for us. It's, reliable. It improves the efficiency and yada, yada, yada. And it hasn't proven true. But I guess they can use gas to do something with turbines. There's something that they can do that I just happened to read an article. Of course, I read everything that you can look up on data centers, and I join groups on Facebook and do whatever we can do to be informed. It's a fast-moving energy that it's hard to keep up with. It's 7 days a week. It is our top priority, and I've often said to residents, I'm sorry if we miss something. It's because we're so hyper-focused on this data center and Los Alamos and the danger it's going to bring to our community. It's our number one priority. So we'll continue to keep you updated as we know. And if we have to call a meeting, if we learn of anything, then we'll call a special meeting to let the public know. So appreciate the residents and Mr. Winters for all the work that's being done. Yes, Trustee Rowe?
I don't know. I got a text. I think I shared it with Attorney Winters and Supervisor Stumbo, but it was a copy of the University M record. I think goes to all the employees and to the students. And students in grad school there at U of M, called the Student Sustainability Coalition, hosted a town hall on April 21st. And the purpose was to facilitate a dialogue around the University of Michigan's joint computational facility and Los Alamos National Laboratory. Said the forum was they wanted to get the people who were putting this together at U of M, the professionals, and from Los Alamos, that they would come and speak to the students so that they could get a bigger handle. But if you read, and you actually, there's a link on that. Maybe we could even put that on the website would be great, and just, focus it as, maybe get a catchy headline, because the thing that it was so upsetting to me after reading it, you have a right to have your differences on what you think about this data center. If U of M think it's good for society and good for our futures, and we don't, that's one thing, but you don't have a right to just twist, it's not even twisting, to outright lie about what's going on between the University of Michigan and Ypsi Township. They presented, people spoke, and you can actually, there's a link in that article where you can get the verbatim, the actual verbiage, the text. And there's also a recording too, so you can do either one. I'm better at reading, so I just went through and read all the text. And in there, the president, all the people involved, it was just saying how they were working with us and they were planning. They always do great things with the communities where they go, and they're going to do great things at Ypsi Township. It was just one lie after another to these students. But what was so great at the end of it is people are so in tune. I've been around a while in the political world, but I've never seen an issue, even the issue when we fought the toxic waste injection wells and dumps down in Augusta, and that was a huge issue, and that kind of reached kind of the national scene too. But we had a lot of participation there. I think that's why we won in that one. It went on for years in the courts and stuff. But this one has so much more people involved. And the students, oh my gosh, on this record, I mean, they said everything I wanted to say, because you can't. I tried to comment, but you can't. You have to have a U of M email. But everybody, it wasn't it was the students and people who worked there. A lot of professors, a lot of people, which I want to put my hands off to them, because that's a lot for someone that's where their income and their pay and their livelihood comes from, and they're willing to stand up and speak because they feel so strongly about what's going on, and so they did that. So I'm going to make sure I'll send it again, and maybe we can get that on the website and just put something on there. U of M, again, misleads the public or the students because they do. The article's terrible. So thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, misinformation's everywhere.
Madam Chair, if I could, you mentioned the gas construction that's going on by DTE, and at the last board meeting, I did mention about a federal lawsuit that was filed in the Mississippi federal court by Memphis in regards to against Elon Musk data centers. He's got 2 data centers, the richest man in the world, obviously. And what he's been utilizing has been these gas generators that is having a negative impact upon a number of the historic black neighborhoods in Memphis, Tennessee. And so I have had contacts with some of the people involved in that lawsuit in regards to their lawsuit, just to illustrate our point as to why these whenever there's a new technology and it's going to have an unknown or negative impacts upon the environment, they always go to areas throughout the country that have always historically been victimized by actually having them be at times the test case as to how these data centers, in this case, are going to play out. Elon Musk generators right now actually are located in the area where they claim there's 27 gas turbines, each one the size of a large bus, to power its data center, and that it's emitting more than 1,700 tons of nitrogen oxide per year, along with toxic chemicals like formaldehyde. And in that portion of Memphis where these are located, they too have faced higher rates of asthma and respiratory diseases, as well as a lower life expectancy in other parts of the city. Studies have shown that these neighborhoods have a cancer risk that is 4 times the national average. So again, you're seeing the same story play out throughout the country, whether it's Memphis, Tennessee, whether it's Ypsilanti Township, or other parts of this country, where obviously the people that don't have necessarily the generational wealth, the political power, they don't have lobbyists, they don't have people that are contributing to 93% of the state legislature that they can make donations to. They don't have all these groups and different PACs to have all these, they call dark money now, where you can sit there and do all these shameful things and not be held accountable. But again, I do think that just like it's playing out here, maybe in Memphis, Tennessee, as well as Ohio, Virginia, Wisconsin, that I think you're going to see a day of reckoning where people are going to demand a higher level of accountability. And maybe it's a good thing. I think of the late Miss Kaiser, who used to come to all of our meetings. She was kind of like the watchdog when it comes to DTE. I can't help but think of her today, because if she was alive right now, she'd be the first one out here taking on DTE for their obscene applications to ask for another $500 million on top of another $300 million about some kind of false promise that if we come online next year in 2027, we'll behave and not seek a rate increase for 9 months. So I do want to add to that right now, because this is not just happening in Ypsilanti Township, it's happening throughout the country, where again, a lot of the historically marginalized communities, whether it's in New Mexico, Tennessee, are also being identified as to where these data centers can go, because again, what can they do about it? And so that's why U of M, when they say, well, we wanted to come to Ann Arbor, but we didn't have water and power. And you look at every high-rise over there, they're building those apartments higher than they ever have before. They're probably 20 stories plus. They're building on that campus every year over there, yet they don't have any power or water. Not true.
All right. Thank you. Under new business, we have waived the portion of the financial policy that requires soliciting bids on Minton and improve A.F. Smith for lighting improvements at Ford Lake Park in the amount of $12,045, which is budgeted contingent upon a budget amendment and the award of a $10,000 CTAP grant from Destination Ann Arbor to help pay for this.
So moved.
Motion Rowe.
Support.
Support Eldridge. Questions or comments? This is going to, Ford Lake Park has pavilions, and they're going to put lights up there. We have like the Jazz Festival, and it gets dark sooner, and it will help light up the area and keep people safe. We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 2 is a request to approve the resolution 2026-09, which is the appointment of Mark Yandrick to the Washtenaw Area Transportation Study, which is a Watts technical committee.
So moved.
Motion Eldridge,
Support.
support Rowe. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item is approve a one-year extension for the police services contract with the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office.
So moved, Peterson.
Support.
Motion Peterson, support Rowe. Mr. Winters has reviewed the agreement. It's a one-year extension for police services that has a 4.25% increase this year. Since 2023, it's 19.75% increase in police services. We do know part of the millage that was passed, and Stan and I are on this committee, gets allocated to the people who contract for police services. So hopefully that number will increase to help us with this gap. We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is budget amendment number 4. And we have a motion to increase a bike path, sidewalk, recreation roads general, BSR2 referred to, budgeted by increase it by $10,000 to $3,088,519, and approve the department line item changes as outlined.
So moved.
Motion Eldridge. Support Newman. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Are there any public comments at this time? If you would like to go to the microphone and give your name, and if you're a township resident, it'd be appreciated.
Jeremy Haley, resident. I just want to thank you again for your time you're spending on the data centers. And I think I mentioned before, that's what their whole plan is use natural gas to generate power for things. They know that we don't have the electrical power in the grid, that they're going to have to generate their own, and they are going to use natural gas, and they know it, and they just want to tell us not, and hopefully we'll believe it. Next thing, at the Washtenaw County event they had at WCC, I saw you there, and I saw a couple of you there, Peterson. I ran into Augusta Township official, and I talked to him about the data center coming in there, and started talking about the use of electricity of the one in Saline Township and the one that they're going to start building in Van Buren. They're over 1 gig. And what I got from him is, well, is that per year? How much per day? How much stress is that going to put on our grid? People are confused, I found, when you say 1.4 or 1 or 1.1 gig, is that you have to say the units. And what I would suggest better is actually have a visual, have a graph of a 365-day year of all of Southeast Michigan of the total usage every day for 365 days on a usage graph on the Y and the day on the X, and show what the regular usage is now. Then show what a expected 1.4 gigawatt center put on the grid would be. And show the people the difference, what it would do to the grid. Once they see the visual, right now people are just hearing numbers. People can't conceptualize what a 1.4 gigawatts is. Unless you're science or engineering and never dealt with exponentials, you have no idea. You know, what I'm saying, if you can come up with a graphical representation of the usage to show people, that would be a lot better. Say, look, this is what our normal usage for a 365-day year in all of Southeast Michigan that the DTE produces every day and people use. Here's what an expected 1.4 gigawatt would do. Here's the 1 extra gigawatt from the Van Buren, and show them that the changes and what stress that would put on the system. People aren't seeing that. They're just hearing it, so they can't conceptualize it well.
It's a good
Thank you.
idea. Like 1.4 gigawatts, I thought I heard Attorney Winters say was 700,000 homes to 1 million homes. So people don't get that. I understand, but I'm trying to just figure out how we can present that better. Because you're right. But if they saw the infrastructure it takes to do that, it's huge. And it's gonna change the entire landscape of wherever they're going with the data center, because they have to have a switch yard. So you have to go from the high-powered tension wire down to a switch yard, which is, well, they're gonna do it on 20 acres proposed by U of M on the corner of Textile and Bridge Road. And it looks so industrial, and it has a bunch of wires going on top of it. And then it has to go to a substation, which is another large development in itself. And it's crazy that they're going to have industrial uses everywhere if they don't change what they're doing now. And the governor was doubling down. I don't know if she's changed her mind yet or not, but at the last conference she was at, she really believes that this is the answer for economic growth and employment. I don't get it. I just don't get it. So thank you. That's a good idea. We'll try to figure out a way to better illustrate it. Are there any other public comments? No? Hearing none. Are there any other business? No. Any board member comments? All in motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Motion Eldridge,
Support Peterson.
support Peterson. All in favor.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 6:55. Thank you.